so I'm about to ruin the moment. So, great story. But yeah, whole other turn. So, this is pretty raw because it happened like 2 weeks ago. So let me tell y'all. Okay, so I moved back here from Memphis, Tennessee 6 months ago. I was born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri, in North County. And I moved to Memphis for a few years, worked a nonprofit, and decided to move back recently. So 6 months ago, I moved back, and after one failed relationship, after the end of January, I decided I'm going to be single and free and do what I want to do. And so I said, you know, I don't really go out, but my friends were coming in town for Mardi Gras weekend. Let me go out. Let's have some fun and see who's out there. And not being an adult in St. Louis was different from growing up in St. Louis because I didn't really know the scene. So I asked one of my coworkers, like, hey, what's a good place to go? You know, it's like a kind of mixed, diverse lounge. I like diversity. And, you know, just hang out with my friends are in town. So he told me a lounge. So we went to the Pepper Lounge on that Mardi Gras weekend. And we get there. And as soon as I get out, I had this big fiery red hair. So my hair's always big. This time it was big and fiery red. I go to the door, and there's a security guard standing there. And as soon as he sees me, he's like, I'm talking to you later. And I was like, okay, I don't know you. Okay. So he's like, I'm talking to you later. Like, okay, whatever. I'm like, he's, you know, nice looking black guy, my type, why not? About 6'2", 250. Okay, let's do it. So, bearded, I was like, yes. So, we go in, we talk, we hang out with my friends, we're dancing. My friends are Caucasian girls, so they, you know, they're used to, especially with my hair, they're used to the attention I get. And so the guy comes up, he's like, hey, I want to talk to you. And I'm like, hey, whatever, I'm with my friends. I'll talk to you later. So by the end of the night, I had a few drinks, you know, kind of feeling good. So I was like, okay, I'll give you my number. Give him my number. I said, what's your name? He said, it's Tim. I was like, okay, cool. What's your last name? He said, Smith. I said, great. So gave him my number, and we decided to go on a date the next week. So the next week we go out. I work downtown, so I told him to meet me downtown at a restaurant. We met, we talked. He said his name was Tim, he's from Houston, and you know, he came here for a girlfriend that he's no longer with. It's his ex-girlfriend, and they aren't together anymore because she cheated on him. But guess what? They live together. So me being in my, okay, I'm free as a bird, I don't care what's going on. Let me go ahead, and it's like, I don't even care. Like, that's fine. I'm talking to 3 other dudes anyway. So I'll just let you be one of my guys, and we'll just move on. So you can wine and dine me. We can go on dates. We went to the gym together because he was like buff, you know. So he's like trying to get me in the gym. Like, okay, I'll do that. So go to the gym, go out to eat, you know, spending time together. And I think nothing of it. So I'm like, it's fine. I don't care what I do what I want. So fast forward a couple months, and we're still talking here and there. He works a lot, and he told me he worked in Clayton as a corrections officer. It's like, okay, cool. So, you know, as I'm building my repertoire of men, when one's busy, I, you know, talk to somebody else, whatever. I don't care. So, as I'm building my repertoire of men, and this is real, y'all. I have dinner with a friend who's a few years older than me, she's about 15 years older than me actually, who I reconnected with when I moved back here. And she's really like the same person, pretty much very live, very big personality, laughing. So we went to dinner, and she's like, oh, I have a perfect guy to hook you up with. And I'm like, okay, who is it? It's my cousin. He's like my age, just like 43. I'm like 28. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So I said, okay, let's see, you know, how this goes. He's like, what does he do? She's like, he's a police officer. He has 2 kids, but you know, one's older, the other one's younger, whatever. You can just, you know, y'all should just see how each other works. I said, well, send me a picture of him. So she sent me a picture. Of course, he's like my type, tall, bearded, you know, beautiful. So I was like, okay, sure. So the next weekend, we talked the whole week. The next weekend, he's like, hey, come to my house and let's, you know, hang out and just get to know one another. I have my daughter, his daughter's younger. I have my daughter this weekend, so just come over. And usually I wouldn't do that because I'm like, first date that's not a date equals you just want sex. So I'm not even gonna talk to you. So, but I knew his cousin, and so we're good friends. I was like, I'll go over there, it's not a big deal. So I go over there, and we go to the den, we hang out, start talking. And I said, so your cousin told me you're a police officer? He's like, no, I'm not, I'm a corrections officer. And I was like, oh. And I was like, so where do you work? He was like, I work in Clayton. I was like, interesting. So, do you work with somebody named Tim? I was like, well, what's his last name? I was like, his last name's Smith. He's like, we don't, I said, no, you work with somebody named Tim. He said, no, we don't go by first names, go by last names. I said, his last name's Smith. He's like, I don't know anybody named Tim Smith. I was like, okay. He was like, what does it look like? Is his uniform blue? I said, yeah, his uniform's blue. He said, well, we go by last names and there's nobody there named Smith. I said, that's a very common name, so there would at least be somebody, one person named Smith. So I was like, okay, well, let me show you a picture of him. I was like, I'll show you a picture of him with his uniform on. So I pull out my phone, show him a picture of the film. I said, I used to talk to this guy, I kind of still do. I didn't care that he knew I talked to another guy, because I'm like, you're talking to other guys, girls too, so whatever. And so I was like, I talked to, so I've been talking to him for a couple months. We're just kind of hanging out, nothing big. And I said, I think he had an ex-girlfriend, they kind of lived together, but they're not together anymore, whatever. Show him the picture. He said, yeah, that guy's last name isn't Smith. And I was like, oh, really? He's like, I was like, well, what's his last name? Well, I'm not going to tell you that, but I'll tell you this. He's married. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, he's married. He's like, yeah, he got married like less than a year ago. Not only that, but he went on a honeymoon, and I've asked him recently about his wife. I said, she has a whole wife. Yes, he has a whole wife. Okay. Okay, so then I go, what's funny is because one time I went to the gym, and it was my gym. He had to do a guest pass. And they asked him what his name was, and he wouldn't tell me. He wouldn't tell them. He said, my name's Tim. They said, what's your last name? He wouldn't even say it. He just pulled his ID out and showed them. And I was like, that's weird, but I didn't really care because I'm being this free spirit bird or whatever. And so then I was like, that's what it was. His last name isn't Smith. So he never told me his last name, but I knew that he's married. So I texted him on the way home, like, your ass is married, I can't believe it, like, going off on him. And then I said, if I was one of these crazy St. Louis girls, I'd come to your job. I know both your jobs are. I knew where you worked in security, I knew where you worked. I want to come both your jobs. Like, I'm not crazy like that though, and you're lucky. And then he got all mad. Why are you looking me up? And blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I'm not looking you up and dropping my lap, literally. But I never told him who told me because I didn't want to, ruin their work relationship. But that's pretty much in my story. So.